Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest football news, because although we thought the transfer window had closed and the Isak Newcastle Liverpool saga was finished, it's just taken a new incredible step as Alexander Isak may well be taking legal action against Newcastle Football Club. And at the end of the day, who would blame him? This all comes down to a piece of information that came out on Twitter today from the journalist Chris Williams, saying that sources informed via individual inside Universal 22 they are looking at whether there's a defamation of character case to answer for the publication of highly controversial, unverified remarks in a UK national newspaper about Isak deliberately trying to sabotage matches. And basically, this is obviously in relation to an article in The Telegraph where Luke Edwards has said on Twitter as well, some insiders at Newcastle suggested from April onwards, Isak was behaving and playing like someone who did not want the team to qualify for the Champions League, as he knew it would make it harder for him to explain to Eddie Howe and the supporters why he wanted to go. And look, you know what? It's a dangerous precedence in a way, because we get lots and lots and lots of journalists talking about insiders. I do this on the United Stand, of course. And we talk about it all the time, how, you know, these so-called sources put out information and you're sort of like, no, it's not true a lot of the time. You know, we had it with Man United last week. Senior players are not happy with the system that Ruben Amorim's playing, but you go through the senior players and you know it's not them. So, you know, very, very interesting. Now, whether I think it'll go that far with Isak, I don't know. But there are some pretty horrific things being said about him by the media, by Newcastle fans, wishing injury on him. And I've always said that this Newcastle-Liverpool Isak story really bubbled up beyond anything it needed to through nobody's fault. Ultimately, Newcastle were always going to sell him. They just couldn't get the strikers in till the end. Liverpool were always going to pay a British transfer record, and Isak wanted to go there. And when you break that down, you can sort of understand each side. There is no big drama. I mean, obviously I've heard Shearer talk about it. I think he was on about it the other day, saying, you know, this is going to be a lesson to football clubs that you've got Gehi, who literally captains his team, scored a goal and doesn't get his dream move, but Isak doesn't train, refuses to train and gets his dream move. This is what it's going to be like from now on. Whoa, whoa, whoa. This is not what it's going to be like from now on, because it's been like it all the time. I don't see many people talking about Manchester United this summer. Garnacho sitting on his arse all of pre-season, first 3 weeks of the Premier League season, to get his move to Chelsea on the cheap at the end of the window. Literally the same thing. Anthony did the same to get his move to Betis, refusing anything else. So look, Isak is not a criminal in the footballing world. Loads of other people do it. And the best thing is, people have been doing it for decades. I remember Pierre Van Hooijdonk doing it years ago. Collymore did it. Like, loads of people have done it. It's not new. But I think our thirst for a story is becoming dangerous. And I don't think for 1 minute Isak's going to take legal action, because I think people around him are going to say, you've got your dream move at Liverpool. The best thing you can do is score goals for Liverpool, win things with Liverpool, and shut your your haters down that way. But in another way, I think it's very dangerous when people are putting out lies about you to the masses. The world is a very dangerous place. It always has been. And, you know, Alexander Isak probably couldn't walk down a street in Newcastle anymore, because somebody would think, you were down in tools on purpose last year. And that's where I sort of, you know, agree that these sources about insider information, you'll be very, very careful of that. And ultimately, I'm sure Isak sat there with the money and the ability to sue that newspaper, or at least say who these sources are so I can sue them instead. Because in fairness to the Telegraph, if they, as a journalist, get given information from somebody and it's a verified source and they print it, the source is the person who's lying. So I just have always felt that Isak leaving Newcastle was always going to be harsh on Newcastle fans. I remember when Cristiano left Manchester United to Real Madrid, it's difficult because you believe your club is the place to be, but they want to go somewhere else. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. But the way it's been dealt with, I think, is somewhat unfair on Isak. And I know people say, what are you talking about? But I just don't think it was ever this story. Newcastle were actively trying to sign multiple strikers from May to the end of August. They just didn't get them in till too late. And I think it's a fantastic deal for Liverpool, and they've paid a very good price for it. So, you know, it's not like he's ran his contract down. You've had a British transfer record for it as well. And I think there's just a lot of stuff been thrown at this story that ultimately would not have been there if Newcastle had got João Pedro, or they'd got Ekitike, or they'd got Šeško in early, then this never would have happened. And it sort of grew into a story that really wasn't there, I don't think, and has gone down avenues it didn't need to about, you know, threats, abuse, and, you know, hope you get injured and all that sort of stuff. But it's a very big statement to come out with that insiders are saying that he basically downed tools and wanted Newcastle not to win. Because as we've seen with people like Tonali at Newcastle, who got done for betting, I mean, obviously there's no monetary value involved, but you are basically accusing a professional footballer of trying to manipulate games, which is a very, very serious allegation. I'm surprised that somebody would print that without the information. So I would side with the journalist in the sense that he must have had that information. But you can't throw that around. You can't throw that around. You can't go and say player A deliberately wasn't playing well on purpose so that we would lose, or player A was purposely missing chances or whatever, because you do leave yourself rightly wide open because you are damaging that player's character. So, look, I don't want Isak to do anything about this. I think Newcastle need to move on. It's a fantastic club. Liverpool have got the striker they want. In relation to Isak at Liverpool, I'm no fan of Liverpool, obviously, but it's going to be very interesting to see what Isak does there, because I believe he's a fantastic player. But there is you will appreciate as a footballer that when you go from one club to another in the same league, around the same area of the table, there's going to be issues. Look, Figo did it, didn't he? Barcelona and Real Madrid. Other people have done it. The point really is that I think everybody needs to move on. And it's a shame that it ended up like that. But look, high emotions, high stakes. Doesn't need to be flat. The flames don't need to be fanned, though, by speculation and stuff like this. And I think it is a shame how badly it's ended. Because let me paint you a scenario. If Isak and Newcastle had agreed that he could go this summer, and Newcastle had lined their two strikers up by the middle of July, and the British transfer record had been paid, Isak would have been on the tour with Liverpool, Newcastle would have had their two strikers, and I think everybody would have been in a better place. But let's not forget, Newcastle have got 2 points from 9 because they didn't have a striker, and we've had all this noise and, you know, opinion, and I think it's caused it. Get your comments in below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Don't forget, if you've not watched our Bundesliga highlights show yet from week 2, check it out. Some absolute bangers in there again. We're loving the Bundesliga and we're loving the support you're giving us. So make sure you give it a watch. Join over. Thanks for watching. Take care. Speak to you in a bit.